what's going on, guys? Tony here, CCxRC, and I am super excited about what I have on my bench here today. This is the Losi DBXLE 2.0. If you guys have been following my channel, you know that I had the Losi DBXLE version 1 on here. Lots of videos, unboxing, all of that. In fact, I mean, those have some of my highest views on the channel. Very popular for people to come and watch. And in the beginning, I kind of had, I wasn't sure about it because I was trying to make comparisons with it to the X-Max and things that just I shouldn't have been trying to do because they're different vehicles. And once this thing came into its own, it became my favorite RC car in my fleet. Recently, though, I did sell it because I really needed money for a gas truck I was trying to buy because I've been getting more and more into fifth scale. So you guys will notice that I've now got the 5T Losi, I've got a sprint car gasser, and so we've got a lot of the big vehicles that we're running now on this channel. And so I'm super excited. I've regretted that decision ever since I sold it, but it was the only car I could get decent money for. And so now we have the Losi DBXLE 2.0, and I can't wait to get out there and run it again, guys. Full disclosure, this one was sent to me by Horizon Hobby to do a review for you guys. Show it off, show its features and all of that. So I just like to disclose that kind of information because some people think it may or may not impact or influence what we think about it. But most of the vehicles that I get, I do buy. I bought my 5T, I bought my original one of these, and so a lot of my opinion is already based on those. And so I'm really excited to see what the upgrades are going to be for this because they're basically trying to improve on something I already thought was one of my favorite RC cars I've ever owned. And so we'll get around and we'll show you inside this car. I'll also point out that they did send me some of their smart Spektrum batteries, 2 of the 100C 5000 milliamp hour 4S batteries. Typically, I only run Venom batteries in my vehicles. That started early on. It's what I used to buy at my hobby shop and ran them for years, recommended them for years, and Venom actually has come alongside and sponsored me, and so I will run these in here because they do recommend them for the car, and they sent them to show some of their features, and it is part of the features that are built into the vehicle. But I plan to run these 7,000 milliamp hour 50C 4S batteries to get a little bit more runtime out of them. And I've been running these in my 4S cars for years, and they're great. So, but we will show you some of the functionality and the features that this does open up to you. And just because it's their recommended, they sent it, we're going to show it as a package because this is the car that they sent us to show you guys. So, that said, there's a lot inside of this that we want to look at and talk about, so let's get to it. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you guys the outside of the vehicle first, and then we'll look at some of the more boring stuff like the manual and the controller, and then we'll jump onto the inside of the car. But I hate to stop right away and show you guys things like controllers. As we look around the vehicle, these big tires are the first thing that I'm seeing here, and the tires themselves are the Maxxis Creepy Crawler LTs. And they are on a beadlock, true beadlock wheel here. These are not glued on here, so we should not have glue tearing out. These are going to be cinched in here with these beadlock wheels. Looks really good. The paint job on this one is the Losi, but they also have a Fox body for it. And I'm actually digging the flame paint job on this. It's super sick looking. I love the silver, red, and black. Just super cool. If we zoom in here close, we can see some of the old logos from Losi that they've tucked into their paint job, which is kind of a cool effect. You can see it back here, Team Losi, TL, some of the different stuff, and that transfers all up here and up onto the top. Looking again, still at the outside, we see that they've got the drivers in here, 2 of them with movable helmets. Hopefully they'll stay in there a little better than my original one. I did lose them. Doing some big air jumping, the heads would pop off. In fact, I still have one of the old heads in my garage. But I'm noticing also, though, tucked in the back here, you can see the ESC is poking through. So they've cut a hole into this panel inside, and they'd allowed the ESC fan to sit up and out so it can draw in some fresh air and let the heat out of the body as well. I'm looking, there's another hole here Oh, that's so you can reach the on-off switch over there through it. You don't have to open this up because this does lock on. This body locks onto the rails. It's got a little plastic piece up underneath here and it locks on. So you really couldn't get under here to hit the on-off switch easy. You had to take off clips that go in here, and we have them all for the demo so we can show you guys opening it and all that. But up on the front top here, we do have a light bar. The light bar was also in the 1.0 version, really bright LED. This is one of the few light bars that I had running still at the end. Usually all the light bars that I get, I end up somehow destroying really early on. So that's nice having that on there. There's a couple of other new features that I'm seeing. Besides the cutout here, the shocks do have the Fox logo on them. We'll look at those a little bit closer when we get underneath. But overall, the car looks really, really good. Try and flip it up here. Oh, it's so heavy. So one thing with these big cars is there's a lot of weight behind them. So there's a look at the top of the vehicle. Really long wheelbase. So it's not like a wheelie machine or anything like that, but it just puts power to the ground and it'll tear up your lawn. It's amazing when you see the power behind this thing. All right, so we're gonna stop for a second, show you some of the other things that came in the vehicle. I'm gonna get out my tool here. We'll do some measurements on it, and we'll look at some of the things that came included here. So I'll start first with the controller. We've seen this in a lot of vehicles, the DX2E system. It runs pretty well for what it is. It does have a plastic wheel. That's the one thing that I would change about this, and I typically do. I put like PPR slots grips on here. They're rubber reptile grips that are made by PPR. And Steve, or Shenlonko, has his channel name, RC, Shenlonko RC, makes those, and it gives it a nice grip to it. Up front here we have the AVC Control, and so you can dial in the amount of assisted steering and throttle control here. I don't think you really need it a lot for big vehicles like this. I might put it on to about, 25% if I do use it. Steering trim, throttle trim, on off. Here, your bind button if you need to rebind it. And binding these is really cool. We'll see why in a minute. It's really easy to do. You have reverse switches up on the top. So this is your steering reverse. So if you're turning the knob right and the wheels are going left, just flip that switch, it'll reverse it for you. The throttle reverse, same thing. If you pull throttle and it goes in reverse, then you just hit the reverse switch here and it'll reverse the operations that are being told for it to do. On the top, something important is your throttle limiter. So if you're going really slow, it might be in low, which is all the way back. Then you've got medium and high. It's a 3-position switch. So the front one being 100%. And then I think it's 70 and 50. Don't quote me on the numbers. And then you have a 3-position auxiliary switch here that you can program in, or it can be used for different things for your aux. Anyway, that's a look at the controller. It does come with this really big wheel wrench and a little Allen key, and then this is for adjusting things like your turnbuckles, so you can get it on there and make some adjustments to those using this wrench. A lot of things that you can adjust with it. It might have come with a couple of smaller Allens. I don't have them if it did, so I should have kept all that together, but things have been crazy up here in the studio, and these were together, but I don't know if I misplaced some smaller ones. So sorry that I didn't get that information for you guys like I typically do. I'd already unboxed this because I wanted to read through the manual, which we're going to show you guys really quickly, because this thing is one of the better manuals that you will see for an RC vehicle. So starting with this, the cover is just really nice. It's like having a magazine. It just feels good. Lots of tips on how to set everything, AVC, throttle control. It tells you about how camber works and when you increase it and decrease it, what that means. So it's definitely something to look into. If you're curious about how things work, shock oils tells you how different shock oils affect the vehicle and the handling, as well as the springs. So it's also teaching you just about how to really dial your cars in, which is awesome. Better than any that I've ever seen, really. Here we've got the telemetry settings. Why is this important? Well, this is important if you have the app or you have the speedometer, you can set up the smart system to know how fast you're going based on the motor and RPM and things like that. So you set your motor count to 4, the pull count, and then the rollout is set to 1.92 inches or 49 millimeters. So if you have like a Spektrum 5 rugged, you can actually go in and you can set these things in for this vehicle, and it's going to let you have the speedometer show or speed show up right on your controller. It's so cool. Over here, this is the ESC. The things that are in black are what the current settings are when you get the vehicle. So like the max braking is at 50%, reverse is only at 25%, punch level's at 4, which is awesome. They've got this thing, they want you to have power with this thing, so they really push that. And then, yeah, all different kinds of stuff in here. Don't want to belabor this. It does have the parts things, maintenance tips, all kinds of great stuff here in this manual. All right, so let's get in now and let's take a look at the vehicle, because I mean, that's what we all want to see. So I'm going to take the hood off. I'm going to take the camera off as well. All right, as you can see, the body doesn't actually come off. It is hinged just like the original one. Some of the things I'm noticing actually is that you can see the cutouts here a little bit better. And but they've actually went and put the washers underneath the driver's heads, which is a huge help as far as keeping them from flying out. I ended up doing that with mine, putting huge washers in there after I lost them a couple times. You can also see that this whole interior, on my last one I ended up taking it out because I damaged it so bad. I'm going to try not to do that with this one, but overall it looks a lot like the original. And you can see here where these little plastic guards are that ride, not guards, but they kind of lock it onto the chassis. So that's nice. Got your wire here that runs to your lights all the way up. Nicely done up to the receiver box. So that is really nice to see that they've done cable management like that. In fact, all of the cables, they've gone ahead and done some management for us. So let's start in the back of the vehicle, because that's where we're already looking. First thing we notice is that there are 2 chassis braces now. This is new, it's different. And so this one's a shorter one, and this one runs longer and way into the middle here of the chassis, just to support this 4 millimeter thick aluminum chassis, which is part of why it's so heavy, but everything in here is really big, and there's lots of metal, and so that's going to add to our weight. The drive shafts in here are very large. Let's go ahead and get a measurement on just this piece. So it's about 7 millimeter thick drive shaft. And one of the things I noticed as soon as I opened it up with the drive shafts is right here, the pins that run through them, the ends of these are 5 millimeter thick. See here. Yeah, so 4.92. So it's in that 5 millimeter range. I'm probably not getting a good reading because it's actually set inside here, so I can't get my caliper on it very well. Not while I'm holding the camera at the same time, at least. 2 battery trays, and what they've done here is they've made these longer to hold higher capacity batteries, which is great. Running Velcro straps. You guys all know how I feel about that. I love Velcro straps. The original ones seemed a little bit long, but they've done, though, and I should have done this with the last one. This is, I don't know why I didn't, but these braces are definitely a little different, because what I used to do is tuck the extra strap length of the Velcro up underneath these dog bones, and that was kind of a pain. They were really long because they wanted you to be able to do some large batteries, but they had them going the other way originally, so your Velcro would pull into the middle. This time they're pulling out, and so it eliminates that problem. I should have just done that with the other ones. I don't know why I never thought of that. I'm kind of feeling stupid now as I'm seeing this and thinking about how much I hated that, and I cut them on and all that. Very simple fix would have been to flip them like this. Sometimes the simplest solution isn't the one that comes to mind. You can see in here, this is a very large spur gear, metal of course, 1.5 mod, and then it's got a center diff aluminum casing right here, because it's getting so much power from the motor that, you know, in order to keep the casing from expanding or whatever, you definitely need to have a metal casing on this center diff. And they've got the spur gears hidden underneath this little guard. I don't know the tooth count on either of those guys. I'm sorry. I should. If I can find that out, I'll go ahead and post it as a text on screen. It is running IC5 connectors, and so these are what work with those smart batteries. EC5 connectors work as well, and that's what I use on my Venom batteries and have used on other vehicles. Even the last one, I used the Venom batteries. They run these things awesome. Up here, we're seeing the Spektrum Firma 160 amp ESC. It's a smart ESC. If it'll focus, there we go. And so I'm really excited to see how this works. I love the colors and the design on it. There's a lot of extra cable here, it looks like, that they've gone and just kind of zip tied and to wire manage to the motor on the other side. We'll spin this around a second. It's really heavy, so I need to set the camera down to do that. So we'll stay back here in the back, though. I kind of jumped ahead of myself looking at these shocks. So they have the Fox logo on them, as you can see here. These are aluminum cased shocks, as well as the top is aluminum, but it does have a plastic end to it. So this cap sits over a plastic piece that is actually what's going up to this standoff that they've got on here. I don't remember the last one having a big standoff like this, but it also had plastic shock towers, and now it's got these really huge shock towers, which, let's see what the size on these are, if we can get a good reading on it. So these are 6mm aluminum shock towers. That's the thickness on those. And so we'll see those a little bit better on the front, I think, when we see them. But you can kind of see it there. We're blocking a lot of the light, though. So they do say that these do have new gearboxes in here that are supposed to reduce some of the movement for the diffs inside of here. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what kind of difference I feel or notice in the performance. I wish I still had the 1.0 to compare it to. Also down here, these hinge pin, I don't know what you call them exactly, but the outer parts of the hinge pin holders are these really thick aluminum pieces. And so then your hinge pins run through that to your A-arms. And so it's got really good strength here that's holding in the end of these pins. So that's good to see. Up here, turnbuckles, these are massive. And so are the drive shafts themselves, which we can't see because we're not in any of the light here. That's better. There we go. And it's also got sway controls here, anti-sway bar that runs around both in the front and the rear. Everything is nicely covered here to keep dirt out on all of your drive shafts. Even the center one in here, you've got these nice rubber guards here just to allow movement and still keep the dirt from just getting caked in there around your gearbox. So that's really nice to see. They say it's a new wing and new wing mount. I don't know the difference just by looking at it here. It's vented like the last one, but I don't know what changes have been made, if it's in plastics or the shape of it or any of that, other than it says that it is new. There's definitely some changes up front here, which we're going to spin the car around and look at in just a minute. Up front, we're seeing the Fox shocks again, our C-hubs up here, and our drive shafts, which again, this gives us a much better look at them. But the drive shafts on this vehicle are just so large. I'm getting like 7mm readings on this, no matter how I do it. So it seems to be pretty accurate on there. So these are getting a 6 reading, not just straight 6. It's a little bit thicker is what this is showing, but in that 6 range. Yeah, 6.09, 6.13. So that is our thickness there of these shock towers in the front of the vehicle. The suspension feels really good out of the box to me. That's very Losi-like, is to have good suspension. Definitely feeling like the front is stiffer, which is interesting since they've preloaded the rear. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna take a beating. Let's see here, what else do we got? Can look inside the wheels here. The large hexes in there, I believe those are 24 millimeter, like on the other fifth scale vehicles. I love when they do this, when they have a pin that runs through and they've just got a short little screw that holds that. It makes it really fast to work on and take apart the vehicles, and so I like to see that. All right, so up front here is where some of the major changes have been made. I noticed that this has holes in the top here. This was solid, I believe, in the last model. But the biggest changes are the servo and the way that it's set up. It's now in this servo case or box, which is awesome because it allows you to put two servos in here. Right now they've got one handling the two control arms with this, dual mount. But you can put two servos in here so you get a lot of extra power. And the servos aren't doing as much work as one right now, doing these two control arms coming off of it. So it's running the SPMS 906. That is a high voltage, high torque servo, metal gears. I did on my last one, I hit a curb really fast, which did end up stripping out the gears on one of mine, and so I had to replace it. But that was totally my fault, and even with the servo savers on here, impacts like that, might be too much for it. And what I'm seeing here is it looks like they've actually changed maybe the servo saver. It looks like it's a little bit thicker. I know in the last one I did have it break the servo saver off of what I think was a pretty small crash. Luckily, to get the metal part wasn't too expensive. I think it was like 20 bucks. So I did upgrade to the metal servo saver in the last one. But we'll see how this one handles, and hopefully it'll take a good beating. I like this. I can tell you right away what it is. It's the receiver box, and it's so easy to access, which is great because these Spektrum receivers here, this one here is a Spektrum SR6100 AT 6-channel receiver with AVC telemetry in it. And so these things are what give you some of that smart settings that come back to your controller so you can do speed and all of that, which is really cool. Simple, easy press bind button. But the reason I like it is when I want to bind to my nicer controller, after about a couple runs, we'll do that. I always like to run them stock for you guys so you know how they handle with everything you get out of the box. But I will be upgrading this to run, not even upgrading, I will just bind it to my nicer Spektrum controller. That'll give me all of the smart technology right there on the controller itself, which is the Spektrum DX5 Rugged. And I love that controller. Looking over here, we can see our power button is right here on a little swivel, which is nice because there's screws here for adjusting your motor and your gear mesh and all that. And there's also one, I believe, on the bottom of this chassis. There's a hole in the chassis that allows you to access it to slide your motor. But look at the size of this can. It's like as long as my fingers, longer than. Very large Spektrum motor in here. It's the Firma 780 kV motor. The part number is SPMX SM1100. And so this thing is going to be what gives this all of the power that it has. That is a massive motor, and it is a 780 kV motor at that. And so it is going to really push this vehicle. That's why you have such a big ESC. I didn't mention earlier that they moved the placement of the ESC. It used to sit down here, but when they put the longer battery trays in, it looks like they had to move it because there's just not space for it down there anymore. And so now it sits on top of this brace here over your center drive shaft, which is also straight. That's something to point out, is these drive shafts are straight through the middle of the vehicle, which is great. None of that curving around things. So that's good to see with this. But overall, I mean, the build on this has me so excited. I cannot wait to get out and try this Spektrum system that is in here. Okay guys, one thing I didn't mention when I was showing the controller earlier is on the other side here, it has this little removable part on it that allows you to put in a Bluetooth module that looks just like this one that I have in the case. And this is the SPM6741 DX2E active Bluetooth module that allows you to hook up an app to be able to work with some of these settings for this vehicle, to adjust your AVC to the different modes that they have, drive modes, and it just gives you more functionality out of this controller. And you can also get a little clip that goes up here to hold your cell phone, so you can have it all right there in front of you as you're driving, speedometers and that through their app. So that's something that you can look into as well. If you get this and you want to have all of these features of the smart technology, tells you if you're using those smart batteries, the temperature of the batteries, voltage, milliamp hour, what you're at, that kind of stuff. Alright guys, so a couple things I did not mention about this vehicle is that it does say on the box that it goes 50 plus miles per hour. I remember the last one was crazy fast, so we'll be putting this in 8S power and seeing how fast it goes for you guys. We'll put the speedometers on it, and then we'll also try it with the other controller and see how the telemetry reads on that. So I'm excited to show you guys that. It is waterproof electronics as well, so you can run it through mud and in the water, through puddles and the rain, all that kind of stuff, which is really great. They have done, I didn't mention it, but they have updated the bulkheads on here, front and rear, along with like the gearboxes, which I did mention. What they did do is they pinned the center outer drive cups. So those are the outer drives coming out of your diffs, going to your drive shafts, and they've pinned those to, I guess, hold them in better. Keep the outdrive cup from coming off. The other thing that I didn't do for you guys is I did not show you the bottom side of the vehicle, which is here. All of it is countersunk and nice hex. All of it is very nice materials that they've used here, and it does have a few cutouts here. Let any dirt that's underneath the spur gear drop out, and then it's also got right here access to one of the hexes that I think is for the motor adjustments. But I don't know for sure. Anyway, guys, it looks amazing. I can't wait to get it out there and run it for you guys. Let me know what you think down in the comments below about this vehicle. Again, one of my favorites. Big, fast, really feels fifth scale for an electric vehicle. And I think it's one of the only ready-to-run large fifth scale vehicles like this that you can buy ready to run on electric. So thanks for tuning in as always, guys. Leave comments down below if you've got comments to make. Thumbs up if you like the video. Thumbs down if you don't. That's all right with me. And, hit the subscribe button if you want to see more RC content here on the CCxRC channel, guys. And so thanks for tuning in. Have fun RCing. We'll catch you next time. Sweet ride. So smooth.